This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series.
So wow, we are back after like a 6-month hiatus.
We took a little break, little Mozambique break.
Yeah, traveled around the world, camels, backpacks, and scorching heat. None of that happened.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere. We were in the country the whole time. But we were just, our main aim while we were away was to really get to know what it is that you guys, especially men, are dealing with in your dating lives, the issues you're having, what you're struggling to get over, what's holding you back from really living the most amazing dating life that you can have or creating a relationship that you really want.
Yeah, and in that effort, we actually interviewed a whole bunch of our listeners and gained amazing insights about what's actually happening for men out there in the dating world, the problems they're facing, and the key issues that come up for them. And I think, one of the interesting ones to relay is that a lot of men are worried about making bad decisions and making a wrong choice. And that was phenomenal, like as an insight.
Yeah, and we saw, we really got to the nitty gritty of the fear that's holding people back. Particularly things around the fear of rejection, the fear of making the wrong choice, the fear of ending up with the wrong woman, the fear of making effort. These are all things that we're going to basically tackle in season 2.
And with that in mind, like our focus now is, as always, but more so on empowering men to take control of their dating life by teaching them a complete understanding of how to actually create meaningful and passionate relationships that they desire. And for us, that is about getting to know ourselves better, understanding our emotions, and then how to express that to the people in our lives.
Yeah, and understand like what it is that you actually want, like learning like what is it I want instead of, what do I think that I want, or what should I be wanting? Because this is also a thing that's come up is like, as men, we often don't know what it is that we want from in our lives in general, but especially particularly from dating and the women that we meet.
Well, actually, it's like they say they don't know, but it's kind of like a numbness to just how we feel about stuff, whether it's something we want or something we don't want. It's just like, oh no, everything's okay.
Yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, which is not a feeling.
Cool. So one of the other things that was really interesting that came out was that men were very, very eager to know what women want across a broad of different things, whether it be sex, relationships. And in this particular episode, our first episode of the season, we talk about what women think makes a man attractive.
Wow.
It's a big topic.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of men have been beating down the door for understanding from women. What do women want? Tell us. Yeah. And we will do it.
Yes.
Immediately.
Well, yes. So we brought in 2 experts. We've got Asa Baav from Tailor Matched. She is a woman's coach. She runs her brand Tailor Matched, which she'll talk a bit more about in the episode around removing shame from people's sexual desires. And we brought back our old friend Russ from the Social Collective, who again coaches women, spends a lot of time with women, finding out what it is they want and what it is they need from love and relationships and sex. So we brought those guys into ADS HQ, as we like to call it now. And we recorded an episode by the topic of what women think makes a man attractive. So without further ado, we jump straight in.
Hi, and welcome to another great episode of the Authentic Dating series. We've got a very, very special episode today because so David and we interviewed a bunch of men for our podcast, and one of the major questions that we were asked is, what do women really want from a man? Like, what do they think makes a man attractive? Because men want to know. We want to figure this out so we can
be attractive.
Basically, be attractive and get more dates. So on today's episode, we've got the amazing Russ.
Hello, hi guys.
Magic Man.
Magic Man. It's an old name. I love it. I love it deep down.
It sticks. It stays.
It sticks.
And Asa Baav from Tailor Matched.
Yes. Hello.
And we're very excited because, so starting with Russie, he runs a corporation, an organization. He's a corporate man. He runs a social collective. If you could just tell us quickly a little bit about social collective
Yeah,
again.
of course. The social collective is, I don't know what it is. It's an online movement. It's bringing people back to learning how to date differently. We've got a podcast called #Date Differently. We've got online courses. We do workshops. We do talks, and it's really about how do you think, meet, engage, and attract when it comes to dating. How do you meet differently? How do you think differently? How do you attract differently? How do you date differently, essentially? Because I think the world has changed. And we're just having a bunch of fun talking about all things dating and relationships.
Amazing. Thank you.
Cool. And also, Tailor Matched. What is Tailor Matched all about?
So we're an offline dating consultancy, and we match people on overall compatibility and sexual preferences because we believe they are equally important, and it's time that we talk about it. So our mission is to bring dating back to life, to real life, and remove shame from sexual desires.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. No, AJ, you talk.
Oh, okay. I thought you were lining something up there.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let's get into the episode. So both these lady and man over here.
In that order.
I love how when it's our podcast we can be more stupid. You both work very heavily with women, talking to them about their dating lives and their sex lives and what's going on for them. And one of the things that come up for men is I don't know, I want to be attractive to women, but I don't know what I need to do.
I think it's a bit more frantic than that.
I know, but we're going to start with this.
I want to be attractive and tell me what to do.
Please, tell me.
Yeah, please.
So the first question I have is, what are women that you work with, their common complaints about men? And you can't talk about penis size because that's really degrading for us.
So penis size? Not really. Do you want to?
I think what comes up for the community and women that I work with is that when they talk about their frustrations is the fact that people aren't honest about what they want, which makes the whole dating, environment very difficult. Because you may start dating someone and then eventually find out you actually don't want the same thing, so you're not there for the same intentions. So that is the first thing that comes up of people not being honest or not owning what it is that they want in their life and being just the real vulnerable selves.
Yeah, and I get a very, very similar bit of feedback. The big thing that I get, the biggest frustration that my market or the women that I've worked with have said to me is that I don't know where I stand. Yeah. Like the guys that I'm dating, I meet these guys, they're great guys, they're fun, they're interesting, but I never really know where I stand with them. Do they want more? Is it just a short-term thing? Are they ready to go from casual to committed? Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest frustrations we get. And I'll get a lot of feedback of just a lack of communication. And they use those words like, our guys just don't know how to communicate what they want. So I find it kind of ironic and quite interesting that you guys are saying, what do women want? And women on the other side of the fence going, what the hell do men want? Yeah. And there's a weird Mexican standoff and nobody's talking to anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to communication, what do you think it is? Do you think it's that men are afraid to say what they want or ask what they want? Or do you think it's a case of just dishonesty?
Dishonesty, did you say?
Yeah.
It is interesting because people that I work with, are joining Tailor Matched because they want to meet someone. And when asked the question, they actually don't really know what they're looking for. So there's a lot of people out there, they're in the dating game, as people refer to. They're very active, but they're actually not sure of what they want. Because they haven't given it, too much thought because they've been so active with dating or being on an app or complaining about certain things. So it's to one aspect is a lot of they're not sure of what they want, and then it's also this frustration of understanding, is this what I want or is this what society is telling me to? And because it's more, I think we live in a world that's more open to recognizing you as a person and your wants and needs rather than what you should and should not do at a certain age, which is beautiful, but that also comes in with more people thinking about what they should do, really.
Russ?
Can you just ask the question again? Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked looking at the Facebook Live.
Yeah, what are they talking about? I said something, it's about, is it that men don't know what they want?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it they're just being openly dishonest? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that tweaked. I don't necessarily think men are being dishonest about what they want. Right, so it's not, I think there's a handful of guys out there that play a game and that are dishonest and that want to be quote unquote players and that want to kind of sleep around and get out there. But then there are a handful of guys that don't really know what they want or don't really know what they're after or don't know how to articulate what they want, which is kind of key there as well. So I don't necessarily think guys are out there being dishonest, but maybe be in a place where they don't know how to communicate what they actually want more than anything else. And that kind of lines up, I guess, with the sort of feedback I'm getting from the girls in Australia that work with us that are sort of saying that I meet these guys and they're decent guys, they're nice guys. We go on really good dates, they got on really, really well, but they never communicate what the next steps are. And that lack of communication is what breaks down where that relationship or that dating interaction is at that point, I think.
Yeah, I think, from my experience of, being a man and living and also talking to a lot of guys about this, I think there's a big part of it is just not knowing what you want. Yeah. Is thinking that, okay, I want a relationship. Like one of the overriding things with the guys we spoke to was that in the long term, they want to commit to a relationship and they want to find, Mrs. Right and stuff like that. But in the meantime, they want to have fun. And I think it's not knowing how to communicate that to a woman in a way, because a lot of the time what men want to say to a woman is, hi, I've met you, I've had a nice date, I don't know if this is going to go somewhere, but it might do, but I can't promise you that it will do, but I'd probably like to see you again and then see what happens and enjoy along the way. And then when it starts to get to a point where it's serious, I'd like us to figure out if that's what we both want.
But then, so the feedback I get is that guys don't want it to get serious. I'm not saying that's everyone's opinion. I'm saying that with the commodity that dating has become, with the introduction of Tinder and online dating, Bumble, Happen, Bagel, Coffee Meets Bagel, I don't know, Bagel Meets Coffee, whatever it is.
Jigsaw.
I think on one of your posts a little while ago, I saw that you quoted a number of dating apps in the UK.
Yes.
There was a couple hundred?
Yeah, it's over 1,000.
Over 1,000 different dating apps, right? So you're saturated with people.
Yeah.
Like, how are you supposed to make a call? But then, therefore, why commit? Why get into that relationship? Yeah. I've got the paradox of choice. Yeah. It's the Netflix of dating. I don't know what to pick.
Yeah. And I think it's like, from my own personal experience, when you have lots of choice, a lot of men think that choice is going to bring them freedom. Like, it's like, if I have lots of choice, then I'm going to make a great choice and be free. But actually what happens is then your choice becomes paralyzing because you've got so much choice. How do you choose? It's like, I stayed with a woman recently, did a detox, and she was like, do you want to just go into the sweet shop and try every single sweet and then decide which one you want, or do you want to try through a few and then go, I like that one, let me buy that one? It's kind of that. It's like a lot of people are thinking, if I walk into the whole sweet shop, try every sweet that's there, then I'm going to know which one I want.
Yeah, and it's, with dating apps has created this kind of next best thing movement of, what else is there. And, I'm very big on like, well, I was going to say commitment, but I'm looking for a word. It's like effort, like putting effort into something. Because a lot of people, and that's like in talking about what we're looking for in a partner, that's been very important to me of like, is this person, how is their attitude around things when it's not so rosy, because life is difficult. Or is it going to be like, oh, no, like this is too much work, like next. And then that they could just download like 5 apps. And we all could do that, go back in it again, but it's that thing of, it's like so much choice, it's the next best thing, it's like nice looking pictures of people's fake lives, and you compare it to your real life and you think, oof, what my reality looks like here, it doesn't look as flashy as these other people, am I happy?
Yeah, that sucks. The dating apps have created like a sense of self-esteem drop. Like, it's almost like before you've even gone on a date with someone, before you've met this girl or this guy and you're sitting there and talking to them, you have a story about them. You've created a story on who they are based on their social media, what their social presence is, whether you've kind of stalked them on Instagram or Facebook or the likes, and that no one's putting their worst foot forward on social media, or they're trying not to. No. So they're going to try and paint a picture of what they think they are, but not necessarily who they actually are. And then there's, I don't know, like, and that's kind of what the dating apps are starting to do. They're pairing you up with people that have commonalities that you like. You have zero control over who you're meeting. Zero, right? So an app has pulled them together. You then go and socially stalk them. You then create a story about who they are. You then turn up on the date. and they're not exactly what you thought they were going to be, and then you go, that's all right, I'll just swipe again. And so dating has started to become a commodity. It's because that whole disposable dating is starting to lift higher and higher.
Yeah, and it's like in everything in life, we need to know what we're looking for, because otherwise what you could go out to find is so variable. And if you start to like someone and you're not really sure about what it is that you want, it's very easy to get convinced that that's the right thing. Yep. And then you kind of conscious catches up with what's going on, i.e. lust in the beginning. And that's when a lot of relationships breaks down, because it's like now we're like in the cold phase of what's actually going on, and I kind of forgot what I wanted, and so it's it comes back to understanding what you want.
I love that what you said was it's about what do you want, but the irony being is the episode is what do women want. And maybe it's look introspectively, turn that mirror on yourself and say, don't worry about what women want right now, what do you want? Yes. As a guy, what type of relationship do you want? What type of woman do you want to be with? What type of values does she need to have? What type of behavior do you want to see? What type of person is she? What does she... And if you start to ask yourself, what do I want? That might start to filter the type of women you start to meet. It might filter the type of women you go on dates with. But it comes back to that age-old question is, do you want a relationship as a guy? Or are you buying into society's view of, I just want to be single and free, and I'll settle down when I've got all my ducks in line. When I've bought my Ferrari, I've made my millions, and I've had 4 threesomes by the end of the year. Or whatever it is that comes with that. And it's noise and lack of conversation. That causes that.
And I think we're moving into an age where there's different types of relationships, right? You've got, you can have the traditional monogamous, you can have an open relationship, you can have polyamory, and that actually opens up men and women to also going, okay, wait a minute, there's not just this one size fits all. I could choose something else if that so, works for me or doesn't work for me. And I think that's also kind of a conversation that's not being had enough. I think it's been having more and more, but it's, when we were all about the same age, like 10, 15 years ago, monogamy was the only route.
It was the only socially acceptable route.
Because the truth is, all of this stuff's been happening for years. For eons, and it's only now with, like, say, the internet and the fact that they become almost fads, like fashions, and popular to talk about that now that it's out in the open. But a lot of this stuff's been going on for years. It's just for people to really go, this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it in the face of a public that doesn't agree. You made some really good points for us about, like, how we should look into ourselves. But this is the thing, right? It's like, no matter what we say, a key question nonetheless is like, that's all great. I could look into myself. But what traits are women looking for?
It's like huge penis. No, I'm kidding. Look, like, you know what? I get sitting on the other side of the fence and working with women. I get the same question: what do men want? What are guys looking for? Right? And I think maybe if you're dating, a better question to ask before you start asking what do people want is, why am I dating? Why am I here? Forget about, like, talking to that point of looking introspectively and looking at yourself, but hold on, why are you doing this? Why are you putting yourself through this dating madness? Is it because you want a family? Is it because you want to get married? Is it because you want a life partner? Is it because you want to be with someone? Is it because everyone else is dating, so you may as well just get on board and do that because they're all doing it and I'm single? When you got the why the hell are you doing it, then you don't have to worry about what women want or what guys want. But to answer your question, the feedback of, like, so what makes a man more... Was that the question? What makes a man more attractive?
What traits are they looking for?
I think...
Generally, obviously.
Because I'm not a woman. Even though I've got a bit of high-pitched voice happening today because of my cold. But look, I think it's... They're looking for a level of honesty and communication. Because the biggest frustration I get is guys are not communicating what they want. It doesn't come down to characteristics at the end of the day, because you don't fall in love with someone's characteristics. And women, from my experience, the girls that I've spoken to, that come to our talks, come to our workshops, are trying to find a partner, trying to find someone to fall in love with. But you fall in love with behaviors, and you fall in love with values. So that's what they're looking for, and they're not looking for flashy cars and status. And I'm not speaking for every woman. I'm just from the women I've spoken to through our workshops and our talks, because there might be someone out there that wants a flashy car or wants a guy with status. I don't know.
Just for reference, how many women have you spoken to?
We've spoken to hundreds and hundreds in Australia. We've run, for the last sort of 2 years, we've run workshops around the framework, the date differently framework, which is think, meet, engage, and attract. And predominantly, it's all women that have always turned up to it. 25 to 30 women in a room at any one time at the workshops. And then we conducted a whole bunch of market research, asking similar questions. What do you want? What do men want? What do you want from dating and relationships? What are your biggest frustrations that come with that? Cool. And they ranged from the fickle around I'm frustrated with the dating apps, I'm frustrated with just constantly meeting the same guy over and over and over again with a different name, big frustrations around not converting into more than a date, not getting past the second and third dates was big ones that kept coming up. Right up to the other end of the spectrum is not finding a guy that wants to love me back, or not finding a guy that wants to commit or wants to get there. So we've really spoken to a lot of women, and it just seems to be the same thing coming up over and over again.
Cool. Something that I hear a lot as well from women is that they want to meet men who have embarked on like a personal development journey, like are aware.
Yeah.
I hear the phrase quite often, like I don't have time to raise like a boy, or like to educate him in life, because I work with women who are at the level whereby, you know, they're sorted, like it's good women, like
when you say
career.
Okay,
so to go into sorted. So what I mean is that it's amazing women who have you know, their careers, their family, i.e. like their parents or like siblings around there, like friends, very aware. A lot of personal, you know, development has gone into their life. They have traveled or want to travel, you know, it's not about the money, but, you know, they're in a good place, and they have not just happened to be that they have worked in order to be in a specific place in their life, and now they want to meet someone who is like-minded with them. And sometimes when they go out dating, they may feel like the other men haven't always done the same level, and they feel like they have to kind of educate them or like bring them with them on their journey, and they're like, do I have time for that? Do I want to do that?
They feel like they're not being met.
Yeah, they feel like they're not being met. Yeah, so I think that is not talked about enough, because, you know, as a collective, I think people are talking about the height is a bullshit thing that keeps coming up, like height, you know, looks like a car, blah blah blah. But actually, in reality, what I hear is a lot of like, what do you bring to the table?
But can I just ask? So height is an interesting one, right? Because I think, like, I know on dating apps, for instance, like height is one of those things that women look at and just dismiss straight away. Like as a trait, I know it sounds, and I always think it's actually ridiculous, because like I know some great guys, like I've got a couple of really good friends of mine who are amazing men who are now in relationships and so forth, and they're like, I don't know, 5'8", right?
Everyone's short compared to you, David. A giant, mate.
No, I met a man not too long ago who was like 6'6", and I felt like a tiny human being. But actually, you know, women might be saying that, okay, yeah, I want a man who's self-aware, which is great, because I think everyone wants someone that's self-aware. I think there's a bit of research I read recently is that when people are asked by a panel or whatever, like how self-aware are you? People always say like 7 or 8. Everyone says 7 or 8 because you don't know. Because unless you know someone who's so much more self-aware than you, you see the gap. But most people hang around with other people like themselves, so they don't realize that there is a gap. You could be deeply self-aware, but you don't know that until you meet someone that's like a lot more than you. People hang around with people that know. But actually, is height actually a really big deal?
You know, I heard it was one woman that I spoke to, and I just must share this because I thought it was beautiful and really changed the way I look at it. She said, so she met her husband on an app. Yeah. It happens. Which is beautiful, and I'm very happy for that.
Which app was that?
Actually, can't remember. I didn't ask much about it.
Damn, that's
yeah, actually, I can ask her. And she said, so going into that app, she got the option about height, but for some reason, the app didn't clock her answer, so it kind of put in a lower height than what she thought she was going to add in. Anyway, so that meant that the men that came up was shorter than she thought. But she met this guy who is now her husband, and she was like, if that filter would have been applied, I would never met my husband.
And this is,
and I think it's
really
so. And now I have two. You know, I get like goosebumps talking about it. But like they got 2 children now. Like they're really building their life. And I thought like, and she's so grateful that something in that tech didn't work, because otherwise she would never have met him.
I think that a lot of dating apps should actually remove height. I think it would actually help men and women, because I think that the biggest problem with dating apps is it allows for a very stringent screening process on physical things that like can't be controlled, like height, location, or like, stuff like that, where actually
material stuff.
If you met someone and in a bar and he's super charming, really funny, really interesting, really self-aware, the fact that he's 2 or 3 inches shorter than your ideal, you wouldn't even really notice because you're experiencing the human being in its fullness in that moment. But because you're on a dating app, you're looking through and you go, oh, I'm going to apply a filter that says any man that's below 5'10", I'm not even going to see him. Right? You're losing out on a huge sea of people because of something that's actually deeply superficial.
Is it the app? Is it the people? Like, think
the people.
Like, prior to
but
apps,
you're giving them the
bar,
opportunity to filter out in this way. People are going to take it. But if in the real world, people would be more open.
The other one,
but people aren't more open, even in the real world. Like in real life.
Sorry,
I'm sure they are. Like, but for my
age is another one.
Sorry, age.
Yeah.
It's a constraint, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, because like there's a guy we interviewed and we know him personally. I don't know if you ever met him. And he's someone who's inherently just cool. And he works in the nightlife industry, but he's a bit older. So on the apps, like the age thing, whatever's there, will obviously come up, and then some people will disregard him for that.
Yeah.
But if he meets someone in person, they will always think he's cool. Like, but that's what. See, that's where it's like, well, I think height and age kind of really skews, what it also does is it removes. It's like it's playing that perfect game again. Everyone's trying to get a perfect score.
Yes.
Yeah.
And rather than going, maybe I should try dating someone shorter, fatter, skinnier, longer. It's like,
it reminds me. There's a girl I worked with in Australia. I don't want to mention her name, but she got married 2 months ago. Yeah. Prior to that, she'd have a particular, like the app, she'd have a particular criteria with the guys that she'd date. Height was one of them, their working status was one of them, and she kept meeting guys and they'd have these rocky relationships, and then it would work and sometimes it wouldn't, and it would just very on and on again, off again. And height was one of them, status was one of them, how much she earned, etc., etc. And like for time and time again, I was saying to her, like, stop looking at the characteristics, start looking at the values, start looking at behaviors, change your approach. And then one day, to prove me wrong, for shits and giggles, she flipped it. She goes, I'm going to see this one guy, right? Which, by all standards, was a polar opposite for all the things she was screening for from a guy. And within 6 months, madly in love, married at the end of the year.
Wow.
And it kind of goes to say that, are we looking for what we want? Or are we looking for what society tells us what we want?
Yeah.
Do we know what we want? And the point of dating is to explore that and screen that. So date guys you wouldn't normally date girls you wouldn't normally date, to see if they're the right kind of girl or the right kind of guy for you, because you're not going to know.
Yeah, and with just to follow up on that, I think, David, you and I had a conversation once around the fact that would we date differently if we weren't so worried about what our friends thought about who we date?
Oh, yeah.
And that's another thing, Ken, because it takes also for you to understand what you want and then go out to get that. If that partner is different from maybe what your friend circle looks like, are they gonna think different of you, or like, are they gonna accept him or her? So that's another thing as well. You told me that, so you probably could ask.
I just think a lot of the time that people are, I think human beings for the most part are not making decisions based on their own values. They're making decisions based on the values that have been passed out to them for eons. For we're talking thousands of years these have been passed down. Like, why do we all say that, why do women always say I need a man who's tall? Why? Is there any actual reason in society now? Is there an actual need in like a logical need for a man that's taller than you?
Well, they can reach things from high off the shelf.
You can also buy steps. Like my point is actually all it is that if you lived in a culture, a society where it said actually short fat men are really attractive, think of the Middle East,
but
where
plays a big part in that.
Yeah, but also with history, isn't it something of like women with like wider hips are more attractive to men because it means that we're fertile.
But I'd also say that its attractiveness is actually very cultural. Like a friend of mine is living out in Kenya, and she's quite slim, she's quite tall. She goes, men ignore her, right? Because she's not a big girl, and they want big girls. And like, for instance, if you look back here, if you go back to the 70s, for instance, right, it was all about kind of stick thin, slimmer women, right? Whereas you come to fast forward now, and it's like there's been the kind of the misappropriation of black features. Everyone's trying to have black features without being black. I want big lips, I want a big ass, and I want big titties, right? but I don't actually want to have baggage of actually being black. But they're all characteristics we associate with blackness, really, right? But that's coming to fashion now. But 20 years ago, it wasn't fashionable and people weren't interested in it.
But 50 years ago, Marilyn Monroe was the height of attractiveness. A curvy woman was in fashion. And that just says that society moves in swings and roundabouts. Societies go from whatever is the common trend at the time to one disruption to the next.
Yeah.
And I think that the key here is us as a society, or us around the table actually, more than anything, and everyone listening, not being able to land on a definition of what attractive means.
Yeah.
What attractive means to one person means something completely different to someone else, and we just proved that just by talking about the fact that in where did you say, was it Nigeria?
Kenya.
In Kenya, big represented wealth, represented eating well, represented, so therefore it's attractive.
Yeah.
Whereas in today's modern society, a size 0 represents attractive, or does it? And I think in a previous podcast that we were on earlier on, we talked about everyone wants something different.
Yeah.
But are we too scared to say that's what we want?
Yeah.
Back in about 4. I've been in Australia for 10 years, right? So 4 years ago, I stopped working with guys. I started working with women more predominantly. But one of the last male clients I worked with in Australia would talk about what he looked for, and we'd go out and we'd talk to girls and we'd meet girls and we'd speak to them, and he'd target, for one of a phrase, he'd talk to and approach this tall, blonde, what he always said was attractive, what he said he was interested in, and it gave him the most amount of anxiety to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then he'd find, after a while working with him, I started to see patterns that the girls he was dating were the polar opposite. They were girls that were a little bit bigger on size. He was at his happiest. He was at his happiest when dating them. But then when we'd go out, he'd be like, when he was single, he'd be like, no, that's the kind of girl I want to go. And I'll just go over and talk to her. Yeah. And the anxiety would kick in, and he'd be worried and nervous and stressed because he didn't take an honest look at, what do I want? What do I enjoy? What do I love? Because society was saying you need to go for the hot blonde in the corner or the tall brunette over there. And it's not that he didn't do well with them, he didn't talk to them, but he never really connected with that. And he didn't. And so there's a big drive around, sit in the fucking room, get your pen and paper out, and try and journal and work out what's important to you in a woman. Yeah. Whether that's values, whether that's behavior, whether that's characteristic, but what the fuck do you want? Yeah. And I think that's the important part of understanding what women find attractive.
Yeah. And working out what you don't want as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So next question. I think we've kind of talked to this, but I think it's still important.
It's really good you wrote all these questions down. These guys covered all of them in one. I know.
Is there a certain look or body type that women want in the men that they date?
That's a good question. I don't. Oh, it's actually an interesting one. I don't. With all the women we talk to, they don't raise it as something they're looking for. They don't say he needs to be tall, he needs to have rips. But when I've been out with friends, interestingly enough, where as opposed to the girls that we work with, I've been out with friends and they've got drunk, then body type kind of comes up. It's like, yeah, he's ripped, look at those abs and stuff like that. But again, I think it's a societal view as opposed to what they want, because some of those friends, I see what their boyfriends and husbands look like, and they're not ripped, and they're not like huge, muscly guys, or they're not like, I don't think body type, at least from my experience, has had a huge play in the initial dating space.
No, likewise for me. I mean, it's something that my clients do fill in within the compatibility. But when we have a conversation about, tell me about your deal breakers and what's really important to you, it does not come up.
Yeah, we need a button that's like, it's like
a like Westwood.
Yeah. That's like a massive wow.
Because I think that's a really big point there, right? Is that I think a lot of men feel that if they were better looking, they would do better with women, right? And I was saying this. Can
I jump in quickly?
Yeah.
You talk about better looking. It's different to body type, and I think there is value in being groomed and looking after your hygiene and yourself, as opposed to being better looking.
Yeah.
Like if you don't fucking wash your socks and you smell like shit and you don't look after yourself health wise, then that is going to be a deal breaker.
If you smell like shit. Top tips.
Do you smell
like shit?
Yeah, but it's like basic stuff, but it's important.
Because what you're doing is you're subconsciously talking to the gene pool here.
Yeah.
You gotta look after yourself. What's our children gonna look like?
It's a message you're sending as well, right? It's saying that you don't don't look after yourself. It's something really interesting. It's someone I dated last year, I think, and she's saying she went to a man's house that she was dating, and she walked in the door and it was a fucking pigsty. And she goes, instantly she felt turned off by him. I was like, for me, that's really interesting. I was like, oh wow, because it says a lot about who you are and how you live your life, that you don't care about your space being tidy and nice and presentable to have a guest into.
Yeah, absolutely. And with body types as well, I know people kind of asking like, what are people looking for? But sometimes I feel like it's an incongruency of what they maybe bring to the table and what they're looking for as well. And it's kind of like, if you're looking for someone who look a particular way, it may be the way, you know, they eat or exercise or are in the world, which probably means they value that, which comes down to probably an important thing in their relationship. So it's like, if you are out there looking for that, you know, do you bring the same to the table?
Yeah, and the other thing is we're hardwired differently, I think. And I don't necessarily know to what degree I subscribe to this way of thinking that men are visual and women are emotional, because men are emotional too, and women are visual too. So I don't know to what degree I subscribe to, but at the same time, as a guy, I know what I like in a woman. I know what, from a looks perspective, and I know what I'm attracted to in that space. But I never get that as a first point of call for my clients. I never get girls sort of saying, "Well, I want him to have tattoos and you know, ripped abs or anything like that, or be tall." The tall thing actually does come up a little bit. In fairness, from but it doesn't last. It drops off so quickly. If they meet someone who they like, it doesn't matter anymore.
Totally. So it's this. What I'm hearing here is that actually looks don't matter very much in terms of looks, but actually grooming and how you look after yourself, what you have complete control over as a man, right, does matter. I actually got a question to you. For your market, for the guys listening, does looks matter? So this was an interesting thing, and the questions that came out was actually for men. It was never the first thing they said. Like you said, what are the traits you're looking for in a woman? And it would be, you know, we had some really beautiful things actually for any of the women listening. It's like things like compassion, being passionate about life, being funny, ambitious, positive attitude towards life, you know, looking for kind of self-awareness and self-growth. And I think a lot of the time they'd also kind of slip in going, and obviously like someone physically attractive to me. There was that phrase that came up quite a lot, was like, you didn't hear men go, oh, she has to be like really fucking hot, or she has to have like long legs and blah, blah, blah. I just want her to be physically attractive to me. And that's an interesting one because, you know, we all have different wants and needs. So no one's ever going to fall into everyone's bucket.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Like, because of the way that they said it. You're laughing at the bucket.
Yeah, I was laughing at the bucket. Why did I say bucket?
He's like, chuck it. Fall into a bucket. But it was interesting because it was something that they would, more than anything, what men were looking for was a level of compatibility. So even when we put down the word compassionate, it was about being compassionate with things that they were up to and being acceptable in that regard. Perhaps it's almost like men feel like, I'm inferring here, it's not what they said to us, but they feel like women don't care what they want or that what they're about or what they're up to. And so they're looking for women that actually are compassionate with what they're up to. They're not looking for incompatibility. No. Like, let's say, because we interview guys who, in fact, all of the guys were professionals. Right? And they had some form of side hustle, some form of side hustle, and the point being is like they didn't want to be told off for their passions. So you can say something?
No, I think that this feeds back into what I mentioned in the beginning of, you know, like being met, because they have, you know, a lot of things going on for them. So in order for them to continue that life, they want to meet someone who also got some stuff going on in their life, so they can, you know, they can grow together, but they can also have an individual life, and that they don't feel guilty for, I'm doing this tonight, or I need to work on Sunday, or like I'm training on Wednesday, you know, so that life doesn't become like all about, because people then feel like less free, I guess.
I think there's a level of understanding actually that people aren't always aware of in dating. It's like if you're going to date someone, you know, who is ambitious and is intelligent, then their life is going to look like an ambitious, intelligent person, right? So you need to be able to go, oh, am I willing to be okay with that? Is that okay in my life? You know, like if you're going to date someone who's got a job and has got a side business, they're not going to have much time. They might be very busy doing what they're doing. Are you going to be okay where some of your evenings are spent them working on their business and you watching them work on their business? Like, and being understanding, and also the level of self-awareness of going, oh, I'm not losing. It's not me versus their business. It's like I am part of their life and their business is also important to them. And I think sometimes that's lost. Like I can say in some of my past relationships where I've had like kind of side businesses, and it's turned into a point with the women where it's like they feel that the time is either my business or them, and it's like a competition between them, and it actually becomes a really difficult situation because, you know, it's like your business is important to you and you're also doing it for your future and your life, and if this is someone you're with, they're part of your thoughts of your future.
And I experienced that firsthand, right? So my wife, when we met, I didn't have a business. And then as the business grew, as a social collective grew into what it was, it took up more and more of my time. And I think had I been doing that, doing the business when we met and being as busy as I was, the relationship may not have had the chance that it did have. But now we're in a different stage in our lives. We're sort of married. There is an understanding that we're growing together. And we do have, it takes up a lot of my time. But then it's my responsibility to then sort of say, well, I'm going to carve out time to spend with you. So if you do meet a guy or a girl who's a busy woman, who's got her life sorted, as you put it, right? It's as much her responsibility to prioritize the relationship as it is his responsibility to accept that she's a busy woman. Because the thing that we forget about dating and relationship, it is a two-way street, and we tend to have a very single-minded frame looking at our own lives and where we're going until we start to fall into that bucket, if you will, of falling in love and being in love. When we start to fall in love, when we start to actually get emotions with someone, we start to become a bit more considerate around what they think and feel. Whereas in the early stages, we're still working out if they're right for us. And that's why I think there's a really significant difference between your dating life and your love life. And for me, the dating life is the screening process. It is asking those kind of questions. And to David's point is like, well, they're busy, they've got a business. Am I okay with that? Can I live with that? And to your point, it's like I'm the type of woman who has got my life sorted and I've got a lot going on, so I want an equal that can meet me there. But if I meet a guy who isn't my equal, can I still fall in love with him? And can he be okay with that?
I think there's, and I said this to you before, I think there's, you know, now we've got to this point in the dating world where it's like red flags and orange flags and green flags. It's like I'm trying to get in through fucking traffic lights, and everyone's like, okay, there's these non-negotiables and blah blah blah. And I say to people a lot now, and I say to women, especially women I meet who are going, I'm not meeting the right sort of guy that I want, blah blah blah. And I say, okay, what do you want? And they might name 5 things. And I say, if you met a guy with 3 of those things, what would you do? Would you go, okay, you know, we can work on the other 2 or what? And they'd be like, no, it's not good enough. And I was like, if I'm honest with you, 3 out of 5 is good. You know, you need to be really realistic in life now and go, because this, you know, our parents would have been like, oh, has he got a job? Yes. Is he an axe murderer? No. Well, he seems like a good man. Yeah. Whereas now we're going, okay, so I want him to earn more than 75,000 a year. I want to check his sperm count. Where does he live? Has he traveled to at least 50 countries? Oh no, he hasn't been to 50 countries. He's off the list. But actually, it's a level of compassion and going, oh, a relationship is a growing together and going, okay, this person might not have these certain attributes, but actually, are they willing to cultivate them? Do they want to have them? Yeah, but
do you have those attributes as well? One of the hardest things that I had to translate, having worked with guys for like 10 years and then moving into women, when I was working with guys, I'd work with them and I'd be like, oh, what are you looking for in a woman? And he'd be like, tall, good looking, long legs, great body, works out, can make me laugh, get on well with my friends and family. And he described this guy, this girl that's like incredible. And then I'd have to be to him, yeah, but do you have what she's looking for, kind of thing? Yeah. But when going the other way around, it was really difficult to sit there and go, so what are you looking for? And the girls are like, he's got to be tall, have a good job, be funny, interesting, have great personalities, get on really well with my friends. And for me to then sit there and broadly and say, yeah, but are you the kind of girl that he's looking for?
That's exactly it.
It became a real point of contention, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, dating, it's a pain in the ass, right? But the thing is, it is the ultimate form of self-development.
Yes.
Yeah,
It is the best mirror you're going to get to look at yourself and say, am I the kind of man that I want to be to attract the kind of woman that would like me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you the man of the woman of your dreams? Are you her man?
Are you like, yes.
Are you the man she dreams of? And
Yeah.
I'd say it goes two ways, because I think, you could dream up this woman and go, okay, yeah, this woman of my dreams, and go, oh my God, but woe is me, she won't want to be with me. But the chances are, if you're willing to do the real work and like really go out and meet a lot of people, you will meet a woman who does fit into your criteria that wants to be with you. But there's a big but here. You need to be willing to really put yourself out in the world. And I think a lot of people are not doing that.
That's putting yourself out in the world, not
You're-
putting
you're-
a version
yeah.
of you that you
Yeah.
think she wants.
Yeah.
You know what? The best way to meet the right kind of woman is stop trying to meet the right kind of woman.
Yeah.
Start focusing on you
Yeah.
and what you're bringing to the table, and you're going to attract the kind of women that like that.
Yeah.
And then you won't have the pushback, and you won't have the resistance, and you won't have the anxiety, because you're not chasing something that you don't even know is right for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, right?
Yeah, so important.
Stop trying to attract women, be an attractive man.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
And just very quickly to finish one of the things when we talked about tick boxes and things. Women sometimes who I work with, and what I've heard is that they feel like they're compromising, and what happens there is that they haven't got their values right. So they're compromising on the wrong things, because and that comes back to, like, if you have as an example, if you have a tick box of 5 and the person is 3 out of 5, but if those 2 are not there and that's your highest value, it's like such a gap between what they can do, so what I'm trying to say is that in order for not to over compromise, which some women feel like they do, and maybe men, is to, again, working out on what we want, which is strongly linked to values, and then prioritizing them within a relationship. Because then you will make sure that you don't, because everyone has to compromise a bit, in order to get a relationship to work, but don't compromise on your strongest values.
Yeah, and to build on that, work out what the fuck your values are, because most people don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, I'm looking for someone that's aligned with my values. What are your values? I have integrity? What does that mean? I don't know. So spend some time, work on you, man. Get your head in the game. Work out what your values are. Because if you don't know what's important to you, how the hell are you going to find that in a woman?
So what would you this is a side question, because I think we're deeply kind of based in self-awareness and personal work, but what would you recommend? Is there any resources or books or courses that you'd recommend someone to do to learn about their values and what they want and what they're about in life?
I mean, one of just straight up is looking at your interests. Like, what are your interests in life, and having someone who's compatible to that, and then around interests, going to different talks and workshops and read about that and just learn more, and you'll find that you meet people high likely to have the same interests because you find yourself at the same events. But it can be as simple as looking at what your interests are.
Yeah.
I
like for me, I had to find my values. I don't know if I can recommend any books to read anything, but for me, what I did was I see value in the word why. Okay, so I want a girl that has a great job. Ask yourself why and journal.
Yeah.
And then whatever answer you get to that, ask why again and journal. You're eventually going to come down to a point where you can't ask why anymore. And that's your true reason behind something. And when I started to think about what my values were, it was asking, why is it important for me to find someone? It's because I want a family. Yeah, I want to have kids one day. I want to settle down and have that lifestyle. And that's turned out that one of my core values was family. And then you see it reflected in your life, the things that are so important to you. And so when dating and meeting women that weren't aligned with my value, weren't aligned with family, I could have the best characteristics. We can get on our house on fire. We can have the most amazing sex. But if our values weren't aligned, we were on again, off again, always arguing, always finding reasons to break up and get back together. The most important thing is that you land on someone that shares your bigger picture and your values, if that's important to you. Like if you're listening to this and I don't want to settle down, I don't want to have kids, I actually want to just get out there, have fun, enjoy life, and sort of meet women, sleep around, whatever, and that's totally fine, yeah? I don't necessarily think you need to drill down into your values, because you can do that, but understand what's important to you and where you want to be in 5 or 10 years' time. Yeah, because time will fucking catch up with you so quickly, and it's a commodity that you don't get back.
Yeah.
Dave, is there anything else you're gonna say here?
No, I think if for resources, like I actually just had a quick look through my phone and was like, is there any books or anything in particular? And I think it's difficult because I feel like I've read so many things. Is anything that jumps out to me as the thing that kind of helped me with like getting to my values and what I want? I think dating different types of women was quite an interesting thing for me, because you start to learn about what you value in people around you. Like, look at your friends. Your friends will tell you a lot about what they value, will resonate with your own personal values, and how you spend your time in your life reflects like what you value and where you put your energy, and that's your thoughts, and also your time will reflect on what's valuable to you. Like if for instance, for some people, comfort is very valuable to them. They will spend their time relaxing at home, watching TV, not taking risks, not being in situations where they can be shot down or be rejected, because actually what they value is comfort, to a certain degree. And you have to ask yourself, do I really want that comfort? Or some people value money because they'll be working a lot in a job that's paid a lot, but actually they hate, and they value money. And some people may value family because they spend time with their family.
But that's a good time to ask why. Yeah. So I value money. Why do I value money? And then journal about it. Oh, because it buys me freedom and I love to travel. Yeah. And then go, oh, right. Well, actually, my value is not money. My value is travel.
Yeah.
And so then you meet someone and they value travel as well. You're going to click.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. To get to the values, ask why.
Yeah.
Why is something important to you? And it's just a great way to get out your head and get out of surface level and get deeper.
Yeah.
But just quickly as a resource as well, as you were talking about it, a great book that I read years ago, it not necessarily around value, but really helped me get my head in the game, was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Yeah, I've read that.
By Robin Sharma. Yeah. Fantastic book. Not necessarily just about values, but helping you to prioritize things that are important to you. And the other one was Old Mates, Mark Manson, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
What a great book.
Very fantastic
His second book as well, what's it called? A book about hope. Everything is Fucked.
Everything is Fucked, yeah.
That's a great book as well. Actually, I think it's better.
Really?
Both books are... Actually, they're really good starting places. They're really easy to digest, but the wisdom and the philosophy in there is amazing.
So I recommend reading them, getting your head in the game. Get an audio book if you don't read. But
yeah,
I would add to what you've suggested. I think self-reflection is really important. But in my own experience as well, what I've also found is sometimes we get in our own way, or we don't even recognize what it is that we love or value, or we deny ourselves.
We can't even get down there.
The pleasure of what it is. Oh, I can't say I love something because of X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. So something that I would recommend, and I know this is a path I've undertaken many a time, it's like either having a mentor or a coach or someone, because I did work with someone last year and I established some values for myself, and it was very hard to get there, but having a coach, essentially he was a coach, he took me through it, and we started off with like 40 different things. He literally read out and I took what resonated, and then I had to whittle them down to 5. And it was difficult, but it forced me to really think and self-reflect.
Yeah, you don't grow if it's easy. No, it's good.
Okay, next question. After such a wonderful answer that went way off the question. We kind of touched on this, but I think it's still important to just hone in on is money and status important to women?
And by status, I'll also throw in like having a really good job.
It's a good one. It kind of, for me, it talks to that age-old adage of men are the providers and the protectors. I think it depends on, it's not money and status that would be important to the market that I work with, but rather if I were to date you, and if I were to marry you, and if I were to have kids with you, if that's important to you, then can we as a family provide, and like, will you provide? Can we together feel safe? And I think maybe it's that, but again, it's a bit of an archaic thinking, because there's nothing saying that a woman can't provide for herself and can't provide for her family. I don't necessarily think money and status in the traditional sense is important. At least to my market.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many different answers. I mean, I've heard some really extremes, and it was one story or two. They're not clients, but I know them. And one of the girls was gonna go on a date, and her friend was like, "What does he do work-wise?" And she was like, "He does this." And she was like, "Don't go on a date because he's gonna earn like below 50 grand, and he's never gonna be able to provide the lifestyle." And she was like, "Yeah, good point. No, I'm not gonna do that." So I've heard that scenario to people who's gone like, it's more important of is a reflection of his current actions, of that he may or not be where he wants to be, but he's like grafting to achieve what he wants to achieve, and like he's doing really well. So like current bank balance may not, you know, reflect the overall aim, but they can see that, you know, it comes back to the you know, to the awareness and development of the person. Where are they, and what's their attitude to life? I think attitude is a really big thing. So I know that's not really an answer, but you know what I can say is that it really varies. For some people it's quite important, and for other people it's not. But again, when I work with clients and asking about the deal breakers, money doesn't come up. It's not the deal breakers that are around like he needs to have this type of job and this type of money, but also, you know, talking to what you just mentioned, if you would want to have a family and you want to have a house and you want to travel, you know, it suggests that it needs to be some money there.
Yeah, I think there's something John Wineland said on one of his videos on Instagram, and he put it really well. He's just like, we're entering into an age now where women can completely provide for themselves and what they want, right? I think he says in the United States, women under 30 out-earn men in the same bracket, right? Yes. So he's saying we're going to move into a point where a woman in her 32 years old can earn as much money as she needs to, right? Have a lovely house, have a wonderful home, travel as much as you want. She can go to a sperm bank, purchase some sperm, have her babies and raise them all alone. Yeah. Right? So actually, she doesn't need a man for those traditional providing signs. But actually, what she's looking for is a man who can take her to places emotionally, spiritually, and mentally that she can't take herself. Yeah. You know, and it's an interesting world now, because I think men are also, they're so used to being boxed into like, oh, if I can provide and blah, 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 then I'm a good man. And now they're starting to see that that's breaking down, and they're like, well, what do I do?
The question I have, and I don't have an answer to this, are we hardwired that way? So to feel like we need to provide and protect, and I don't know why I keep using these words, provide and protect, but I
feel like you sound like the American police.
Truth, justice, and the American way. But like, think about it. Like, so I don't need to have money to be able to make a girl feel like she's being provided and protected for. Totally. I don't need to have status. It might be as simple as having a really bad day and just saying, are you okay? Yeah. How's your day been? It might be as simple as opening a jar or a jam that she's struggling with. It's not about me being able to provide and protect for my wife or my family. It's me being able to feel like a man. Yeah. And not having that taken away from me.
I have gone on a quite journey on being very quite hardwired of like having a man who's, I know my mom is going to listen to this, and I had a lovely childhood. But what I'm going to try to say here is like, I for a very long time was hardwired towards like masculinity of like preferably have been in the army, would have, you know, built a certain way, like strong, can provide. It's like the alpha male, which meant that when I looked at men in how I used to date, was like, if someone, it went that extreme that it was like, if a guy had like a chai tea latte, I was like, oh my God, no. Wow. I could, that's how hardwired I was. But coming back to saying all of that, and that is how I led my life, felt very unfulfilled. Because like I found that, I created it, and I found men who had that. But because we didn't have the emotional connection, and you know what you mentioned of what I can, you know, I was still looking, I felt very unfulfilled in that. So I went through a real journey of like, why am I so hardwired? And I started doing like little exercises of like going to art galleries and seeing men there and seeing like, this is okay.
Oh, men can look at art too.
Yeah, men can look at art and like, they are straight. And this is, I know, this is me like 2 years ago, you know, people don't really know my story. But this is so like, I went through like different exercises because it left me feeling so unfulfilled, because it wasn't on a deeper level. So I had to take a real serious chat with me of like, why do I want this, and what is it that I'm lacking, and how do I enter that emotional available men, which again came back to like a real personal development journey that I'm still very much on. So maybe, you know, I guess it's different, but maybe we are hardwired, but
we're human, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately the whole saying men are visual, women are emotional. Well, men are emotional too. Yeah. We may not always admit to it. We may want to hide it, but we feel. Ultimately, we're going to experience everything that a woman's experiencing. Yeah. But we just think differently, and I don't know if that's evolution. I don't know if you want to call it evolutionary, but we do think differently. Yeah. Yes. But we feel the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think more and more now, like status is a really interesting term. It's like if I said, "Oh, what does status mean?" Everyone would have a different answer, right? Like I think status, in certain places are different things, but I think it's a level of confidence in a man, like he has in the environment he's in, and that could be you walk into a bar and being like, okay, cool, I'm in the bar, I'm cool with being here, I don't feel scared about being here, or I walk into a self-development seminar and I feel comfortable with sharing vulnerably on the microphone. That raises a man's status in these certain areas. And it's all about actually going, okay, am I willing to be more vulnerable with who I am in different places? Like I found what's really funny is that since I've had the podcast, is that when we had it, if I had the podcast and I dated women, I'd be like, oh my God, they're going to listen to podcasts and like think that I'm fucking weird and never want to see me again, to the point where I'd be on dates and say, I run this podcast about dating, it's about self-awareness and dating for men. Here's a link, go and listen to it. Like I've got nothing to hide. Go listen to it. I talk about my life freely.
Does that talk to status on some level? So you meet a girl.
It does, because it sounds like I'm a man who knows about dating, doesn't it? But it also could completely work against, like, if you go back to days when we used to work in the pickup industry, it's like a lot of girls would hear that guys were doing that job and be like, just run away.
But then the flip side is I leveraged off that. As a working pickup artist, I tell girls that I work with guys to help them meet women. And then suddenly my status goes up. Because I'm not hitting on you, but I'm talking to you about what I'm doing with other guys. So it's human nature, I guess, to some level, to convey a level of achievement or status with what we do. It's more important to not value it more than you value what you want, I think. Or not, I don't know, but we do it. We do it all the time.
So there's a definition or a description of status which I really like, and I can't remember where I read this or heard this, but it's like years ago, prior to like Bentleys and Rolexes and all that stuff. Like how would a woman know a man has status above others in a group, in a community, in a town, right? Or even before towns. And what it boiled down to, even though all the men look the same, is unreactiveness. Their ability to just be unreactive to what's going on around them, and just to do you. So kind of like what David was saying there is, he will talk about it, or we will talk about it as like people who were teaching in the whole pickup world. And if someone was to be like, oh, that's fucked up, or you're just completely like, oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think so.
Because that speaks to a man who knows himself.
So confidence. There's an inner confidence.
Yeah, and confidence is really
attractive.
Yeah, and that's
that's she's like burning up here. That was very attractive.
I thought that was a Christmas light.
Did we get that on camera? The exact moment also realised
that is attractive.
Very attractive.
People all women.
You need some sound
authentic confidence, not people who are full of themselves.
And there is a fine line.
There's
a fine line between confidence and cocky.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. To clarify.
Yeah. Well, you say it's a fine line, but actually, it comes. I always, because I used to be super cocky, like when I was young, and there was this whole thing of like cocky confidence and all that jazz.
Funny.
Funny, yeah.
Oh, David D'Angelo.
But really, like, confidence and cocky's putting on something. It's like you're putting on a bravado. You have to show.
Yeah.
I have to show you that you said something funny, now I'm going to say something funnier. Oh, you're talking a lot, I'm going to fucking talk the most.
That's insecurity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's the basis
cockiness.
of it. Whereas confidence is you just do you.
Yeah.
Like if you're Gandhi, you're Gandhi. It's like,
no shoes on and everything.
Yeah.
We talk about confidence a lot at Social Collective because it comes up time and time again. Like women hear this thing that goes out in society that men love a confident woman, and they go, Russ, what is that? What does confidence mean? And I'm like, well, yeah. And the truth is, it's a certainty around your story, right? It's having a certainty around you. You don't have to be loud and outgoing and front and center all the time in order to be confident. You can be shy and quiet and reserved, but still have a certainty about everything you say and do. Yeah, because that is what confidence is, and that's what's attractive. When you're out there putting yourself out there and being like, I'm really confident and I'm doing things because to show that I'm confident, then you're saying and doing things to evoke a reaction or evoke a response. Yeah. The moment you start looking for other people's responses is you're seeking validation. Yeah. And the moment you're seeking validation, you are far from confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how strong this is linked, but I think also with like confidence, like as a woman wanting that in a man, is also coming down to, you know, how they do react and like safe attachment style. I don't know how closely linked that is, but I think it's someone who's like, you know, you do you, like they own what they do, which again comes back to creating safe spaces, which also is something that women look for a woman to be able to be vulnerable, you know, as in life. This also goes into the bedroom of like, if you're gonna, you know, just be confident in how you're doing things, and that creates a very safe environment, which allows women to be, you know, feminine and to thrive and to, you know, ask for what she wants and what she needs, and that creates a very strong relationship.
Yeah, good.
No, then can be heard and listened to.
Yeah, and heard and listened to. I think so much come back. So when I say confidence, it's like, you know, it links into so much about the individual that, you know, just breaks it.
And not to be judged as well. I think
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important to understand that the confidence comes in different subsets, right?
Yeah.
You can't, just because you're confident in one area of your life doesn't mean you're going to be confident in another area of your life. Like, confidence is not something that's universal. There's self-confidence, dating confidence, confidence in the bedroom, confidence around work. You might be the most confident person in your office because you know your shit, you know what you're up to, but the moment a girl's sitting opposite you, you turn to mush and nervous and worried. The best thing to do is spend time working on the things you're certain about and the things you control, which is your thoughts, your actions, your words, not the other people around you.
Yeah. And also not being afraid of failing, because if you are very strong and certain in certain situations, this is why I didn't allow myself to be vulnerable, because I was so certain of like being in the boardroom. Like I was, you know, very like in my masculine like energy, and I was doing really, really well. So in other areas where I didn't do well, I was like, I'm not going to touch that, because this is how I recognize myself, and is allowing yourself to not be so good at everything. And you know, you have to start somewhere, and that's fine.
Not being good at not being good at acknowledging and being okay with not being good at something.
Yeah.
There's a business guy I follow, and he wrote about confidence. He was like, when is the best time to be, like, let's say you're learning to ride a motorbike, when is the best time to be confident riding a motorbike? Is it when you're first learning, or is it after years of practice? And it's obviously not when you're first learning, because if you're
that's cocky.
because you can fuck up, right? And,
and
he said, but that's just business, that's how it is. Like, you got to, confidence is what comes, and I started to formulate something around this, like, confidence comes in action, of doing something.
It's actually confidence is built, confidence in after the fact thing, after the action thing,
comes from after you.
You're not confident.
You gain confidence by the feedback after taking action. So if you do something and you get a positive feedback loop from it, you go, oh, okay, I'll do that again, and you get a positive feedback loop. And the more you do that, the more positive feedback you get, the more confident you get. If you take action and you get a negative feedback loop the first time and it shakes you too much, then suddenly you lose confidence in being able to do that. And where I've seen that happen more than anything is with guys approaching women, guys starting to have conversations with girls or putting themselves out there. And even in my market, girls doing the same thing, is that if you let the outcome of your action define how you feel, you're going to knock your confidence.
And it also needs to come from within, because you know, like it's like going back to your journey. If your journey is to just talk to someone and that woman or man shoots you down, is to congratulate yourself of at least talking to that person and not going, because that other person you've approached, he or she might be the most comfortable fucking person in the bar. Do you know what I mean? She might have done this for years, and this is your first attempt to it. So it's so important to look for internal validation. Is that even a thing?
It's effort.
But like,
it's more important for you
pat
to
yourself
make
on
an
the
effort.
back.
Yes, exactly.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yes.
Sometimes I do that physically.
Yeah, I do as well. For everyone who can't see us, we're all tapping ourselves on the back right now.
That's that sound.
That's that sound.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's you reward yourself for making an effort, not for the results. Don't be results oriented. Don't even worry about the results. Just take action. Make small steps. Take like little steps to lean into the fear that's stopping you from doing it.
Yes.
And so that's our top tips for what women look for.
What makes men attractive? Was that what we
what women think
we've
makes a man attractive? I think to start to round this up is like what I get is actually the things that make a man attractive are massively vast. They're very wide. There's not a one kind of size fits all. There's not a like, oh, he has to be really good looking.
Yeah, and I want to just point one thing out. The questions that you've asked throughout this whole thing to two people who have an entire market of women, return no results. It's like, oh, do women look for body shape? No. Are women looking for guys that have got status? Not really. Are women looking for guys that are work out every day and got lots of money? I can't remember the first question you asked, but no, like, I didn't have anything to give you on that.
The first,
and I think that's a big takeaway.
It is a huge takeaway, and one of the other takeaways that brought me back to that is one of the first questions about the complaints that women have. And actually, the one thing that really women really want in a man is a man who can communicate.
Yes.
Communicate himself, like his intentions, his wants, his needs, his desires.
Yeah.
And actually, the things like money, being fucking buff, being fucking Brad Pitt, and having status are actually not that important. What actually is important for a woman is a man who can communicate. And actually, to a certain degree, goes after the things he wants in life.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's like a certain level of confidence. And to remember that confidence you're not born confident. No one is born confident. No. And everyone you look at who is confident has some area in their life where they're not very confident.
Yeah.
And the areas where they are confident, there was a time when they had no confidence.
Yes.
And they built it from scratch.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Consensus across the room.
Yeah. Like I think, I feel like the only thing that's really kind of common in what's been said is there's a level of vulnerability, which is important.
Yes.
Confidence. As well as height. No, I'm joking.
There was also something else which also picked up on earlier, which was about self-development.
Yeah.
And have done work on themselves in the sense that they were self-aware and they weren't, because we do have a lot of this. Even some men who are world leaders come across as being very childish, and it's not. Then they haven't matured into being a responsible man who's taking care of their own shit, but rather someone who's still chucking their toys out the pram and stuff. And so as a consensus from what I can hear from all of us really is, like, as David said, the communication, but also that self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think self-awareness is interesting. I think it's a whole another topic for another episode, but I think the only thing I say is that if you're living your life and you're blaming or you're shaming other people, you're blaming other people for where you are and what's going on with you, you're showing a lack of self-awareness. It's not self-awareness. Responsibility is being self-aware, going, okay, my life is this way because of me, and being responsible and then taking action out of that. That is self-awareness.
Yeah. And responsibility is the key. Like, don't shy away from taking responsibility for everything that you're doing in your life, the good and the bad. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That reminds me of when I met you in Sydney, Russ, and I'd lost my sunglasses and I was really unhappy because they were really nice and quite expensive.
Took responsibility for it.
And I turn up and I'm like, Russ, how you doing? I'm like, man, I just lost my sunglasses. He's like, slap across the face. It's like, be responsible for it.
Be responsible for your own sunglasses.
And just on that, I know we're rounding up, but what you mentioned there, I saw this quote today, and they said, your wound is probably not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And that's
I saw this today.
Yeah.
Man Talks,
Man Talks,
Good old Man Talks. I love his stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Big fan of his podcast. Actually, as a resource to learn more self-awareness, Man Talks would be a very good place to start. As from his podcasts, his mini series on his podcast, a lot, like, there's some really beautiful content in there.
Yeah.
And actually, probably if you contact us, Authentic Dating Series, Instagram or whatever, if with some thinking, we definitely provide you with some more resources around self-awareness and how to tap into more self-awareness, because ultimately, from my point of view, I think actually that's the most attractive thing you can cultivate in yourself.
Yes.
As a man.
Amazing.
Cool. So I think we're wrapping up now. So where can people listen to you, talk to you, harass you, get coaching from you? Russ?
In Australia. So I live out in Sydney. I'm just home visiting everyone for Christmas and New Year's. But you can hear more about The Social Collective at www.thesocialcollective.com.au. Instagram, _social collective, and you can, the best thing to do is to really tune into our podcasts. So you can find us on all the podcast peddlers, Spotify, iTunes, Whooshka. I don't know what else are out there, but just search #DateDifferently on any of those platforms, and you can hear my lovely voice over there.
Cool. And have you got any courses or workshops that you will be running in the near future?
Yeah, we do. We've always got something happening. Yeah. At the moment, we're working through an online course called #DateDifferently.
Nice.
And it's going live sort of February, March next year. Sorry, lads, this one's typically aimed at all the women out there. But if you are a girl that's out there that's struggling with dating or just want a new perspective on your dating life, jump on #DateDifferently. And when it's live, we'll join the mailing list and I'll just tell you when it's live.
Cool. And they get the mailing list from going to your
The website. Yeah, perfect.
And also?
And you can find me and Tailor Matched on Instagram. So it's Tailor Matched, as in TAIL, as in tailoring, Tailor Matched. Our website is tailormatched.com. And also, yes, do join our mailing list and you will get the latest from our upcoming events and very exciting collaborations this year with some really big names, which I'm super excited about. Some more.
Us.
Yes. It's Authentic Dating Series. Yeah.
Get an international collaboration going.
Yes, an international
Australia.
collaborations. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can find me there.
And then, in your point of view, are you doing any courses or workshops in the near future?
I am. I'm doing a few workshops when it comes to how to get what you desire in life and in the bedroom. Rolling out. So that's a upcoming one. I have the pleasure panel coming up next month. And then in March, we're doing your sexual language. So the love languages is out there, but now we're talking about the sexual language.
Okay.
So it's like erotic blueprint, which I can recommend everyone to do. It's really eye-opening. So some really exciting things coming up.
Cool.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, and I think you know where to find us: Instagram, Authentic Dating Series, and our website authenticdatingseries.com. We're going to probably be doing talks weekly, depends when this podcast goes out, but we're also running talks under the guise of Man Up, which is kind of uplifting conversations for men about masculinity, dating, sex, love, and vulnerability. Actually, so creating a safe space for men to share openly and talk openly about what it does mean to be a man and toxic masculinity and moving past that into a more integrated, wholesome man. So, go and find us on Instagram for those. And also we're stepping back into coaching. So if you're looking for ways to improve your dating life and raise more self-awareness in your life, contact us and we can talk through, what we can provide and how we can help you.
Yeah, that's it. As David said, you can find all information. If you I think you can sign up to our mailing list now as well on our website at authenticdatingseries.com, and you'll be kept up to date with everything we're doing. It's going to be a big year. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.